The City Deal is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Perth to bring together all levels of government to change our city for the better. I'm so excited about the renewed energy that a City Deal can deliver for the CBD by defining the actions and investments that will drive the future productivity and prosperity of Perth. The City of Perth has set an ambitious goal of tripling the local population to 90,000 people by 2050. That's 60,000 people over the next 30 years, or 2,000 people a year. Right now, these are just numbers, and we need more than a target to get there. The Property Council is calling for Project 90K to be a core part of the City Deal. How do we attract people to live in the city? And how do we make sure it's a great place to live?
If we take Brisbane, Brisbane has 3 times the level of residential density in its inner area than we have in Perth. So by achieving this outcome, in fact, we would just be at where Brisbane is now. And I think that most people in Perth and most West Australians would think that Brisbane is a fairly livable place, that it's got the level of vitality, but it also has a scale and a lifestyle which is quite comparable. There are almost 7,000 apartments approved, proposed or planned, so what we fundamentally have here is a demand issue. And if we think about 90,000 people, we need to think of them as to who they might represent. It's not just an amorphous blob. In terms of children, if you think about the fact that there will be around 6,000 children who will need to have access to places, but there'll also be that need for informal play. And think about the next demographic, which is, I suppose, the young adults. We already have a number of them, but the number is going to grow exponentially. And then if you think about an area which isn't necessarily a traditional area for local government within an inner location, is aged care, because the aged population is going to grow significantly. We haven't traditionally needed to think about aged care in the CBD, but the reality is that we need to be perhaps identifying where the aged facilities and where the accommodation is likely to be. Ultimately, however, when you think about nearly 100,000 people within the CBD, there's a whole range of other and higher level facilities that will also be demanded. I mean, the notion of indoor recreation and aquatic facilities really needs to then become part of the mix.
To achieve a tripling of the central city population, the status quo will not suffice. All levers need to be considered, and it's crucial to acknowledge that tweaking some plot ratios won't be the catalyst that Perth needs. Project 90K provides ideas under 5 umbrella categories: city services, city connectivity, city brand, city focus, and city governance. City services. It makes no sense that school sites have been planned throughout the entire metropolitan area, but the inner city doesn't know what's next. It's time to lock in future vertical public school sites and ideally allow for those school sites to accommodate additional community spaces, parks and facilities like childcare for public use. And at the same time, we need to begin the process of securing space for a major indoor recreation and aquatic facility. We also need to transform our inner city parks into more usable spaces and create a network of smaller public spaces to be closer to where people actually live. City connectivity. We need to make moving around the inner city easier and catalyse development with forward transport planning. Industry has been waiting for the CBD transport plan to be finalised, and now is the time to get it done, and it needs to be updated regularly. We need to secure future fixed inner city transit routes and the stations right now. We should also remove any legal restrictions on the micromobility revolution sweeping global cities to make sure that we don't miss out. We also need to start thinking about our next urban renewal projects and consider upgrading and transforming our inner city train stations and their surrounding precincts like McIver and Claysbrook. And lastly, we need to rapidly increase the pace of street renewal to make our streets greener and more comfortable for pedestrians and cyclists. Perth needs a greater sense of identity of its entire self and its smaller parts. Let's think big and create an internationally significant event unique to Perth, like a wildflower festival. And so much opportunity lies in better defining, managing and curating our inner city neighbourhoods with distinct brands, identities and character to make them desirable places to live. City focus. Our central city is missing some of the essential ingredients of a great city. Cities are a collection of thousands of great places and buildings, and every single one of them is important. We need to move forward with a new undergraduate campus in the city, ideally integrated with community or conference facilities. And we also need to begin returning our major institutions like WAPA and the WA Ballet to the city and begin planning for our next major cultural buildings. We also need to have a look at the development costs and household charges that apply to apartment living to make sure that that style of living isn't being unfairly treated. And lastly, we need to incentivise land consolidation in the retail malls to make sure we get the CBD retail experience that we deserve. City governance. How the city is managed is fundamental to its success. No one wants the city deal to gather dust on a shelf, so let's get the implementation right. Let's reinvigorate the City of Perth Act process to have a continually updated priority list between the state and the city, just like Brisbane has had to great effect. We also need to think smartly about new governance systems to spark new ideas. Does Perth need a new night mayor, for example, or an inner city coag-like body? Let's also think about how the Perth Parking Levy funds can be used more creatively to fund neighbourhood rejuvenation and street renewal. And lastly, let's make sure the city's new planning scheme loosens controls for residential development and maintains discretion as a fundamental component of decision making. A great planning system is one with flexibility in mind.
I'm so excited to see the Perth City Deal come to life. It will take talented and determined people to make 90,000 people living in the city a reality. A city full of people is what we need to have a vibrant CBD retail offer, what we need to keep our young people in Perth, and what we need to keep tourists coming to WA. I encourage everyone to fully embrace the unique opportunity that the City Deal brings us. Let's get it done.